All right, well, let's give it all for the LogiSense team. This is the second year they're doing this. Can we give them a huge round of applause for pulling this event together? It's no joke. No joke. Well, I have a lot to share today, but I'm also trying to read the room. So you think about usage economy. I have a 15-year-old son, and he said to me yesterday that, hey, can I get your credit card? And I'm like, yeah, for how long and how much? He's like, yeah, just give me your credit card and you'll see how much I spend money on for lunch and whatever. He plays tennis, is like virtual school, and he goes tennis, so he goes out for lunch. And I'm like, dude, it's not like we have usage economy for children right now. Like that's too early. You got to have some limits on it. And his pushback to me was like, well, if I cross that limit, you can let me know. I'm like, no. That's not what's going to happen. So we have to figure out how all of this comes together. But in the last 2 decades, I ran marketing at Pardot, and we got acquired by Salesforce. So I saw a small $10 million company become part of a $10 billion plus company. Then started a company called Terminus that got acquired by a PE firm, and ended up writing my third book called Move, which became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And most of you, if not all of you, should have a copy of that book today. And in all of it, there is this one question that we ask. The book was written in 2021. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. If you are by yourself, you need to go find somebody and sit with them and have this conversation. And I'm going to ask you this question, what you talked about. And here's the question I want you to spend 30 seconds on with each other. How do you define go-to-market? All right, so you got 30 seconds, find somebody in the room, go sit down next to them and talk about it, and I'm going to ask what you guys talked about. So here you go, 30 seconds. That always works. Works with my kids. All right, Christopher, why don't you kick us off here? What do you guys talk about? How do you define go-to-market?
Yeah, we have 3 different.
Oh, 3 people having 3 different definitions. Yeah, I should have 4, but go for it.
No, I said the aggregate of marketing, sales, pricing, and the organization behind it.
All right, marketing, sales, pricing, and all the organization around it. All right, that's good. What about over here? All 4 of you are having a very spirited debate, I felt like. So can one of you share, how do you define go-to-market? Yeah, the first thing you should do in go-to-market is point fingers. That's right. Right, so good for it. So, and then you need to voluntold somebody, so go ahead and do that.
Yeah, come up with a product that people love.
Come up with a product, so product.
That people like and they want.
Okay, so product, it becomes the moat, the main thing, and you have certainly seen that with AI, and you can lose $14 billion. Who knew? By focusing on product. All right, over here, towards the end, like what, purple, I'm colorblind, like purple color, and you guys talked about. So what is your definition of go-to-market? Sales, product, all right. So can anybody tell me what's wrong with all of this? Pricing, okay. What else? Second? All of it, maybe? Well, here's the thing. When we wrote the book and did the research, we were primarily a research firm, and there are 175,000 people who read our research every Monday. It's called GTA Monday. And when we asked this question, we went to executives from startups to billion-dollar companies and asked, what is go-to-market? How do you define go-to-market? Guess what? Everybody had a different definition. Now, as far as I know, if everybody has a different definition of what it is, what problem you're trying to solve, can you get to a same answer? Most likely not. So I highly recommend each and every one, to Adam's point, the first takeaway is have a clear definition of go-to-market, what it means for your organization. Some of you might be, and sounds like, might be a product-led organization. Great. If you're a product-led organization, your go-to-market, your usage, your pricing, positioning, that is going to be very different than somebody who's trying to build a new category out there and be okay to lose $14 billion, and they're going to do very differently than if you are more in a sales and marketing. It's going to be very different in that. So ultimately, you have to define go-to-market for what it is in your organization. In most organizations, in all of our research, we do about 500 workshops throughout the year with executive teams. We have go-to-market certified partners who run those as well, and we hear this all the time, that hey, we're just not aligned on go-to-market. And the first question we ask is, well, what is go-to-market? Who's in your go-to-market meeting? What do you guys talk about? And it's all over the place. So what I want to do today is share with you a simple framework that will help you do that. How many of you are in 2026 planning or about to get into 2026 planning right now? All right. So if you want to use a framework to do that, I hope this is a gift to you, because everyone has a set of frameworks, and I love that intro. Do not believe whatever ChatGPT tells you. So that introduction that I got about, like, I have more playbooks than there are. The reality is that I love frameworks, but the frameworks is a way of having a language, having a conversation. It's not intended to point fingers. It's intended to solve a problem. Let me ask you one more question before I get started. How many of you are in marketing? Okay. How many of you are in sales? How many of you are in product? Okay, well, let me ask you one defining question. How many of you are in go-to-market? I expect every single hand to go up, because go-to-market is the business. If your hand is not raised, I have no idea what do you do. What value do you add to your organization that would actually drive consensus? You need to own you need to be a part of go-to-market. You need to know your role around it. And I love all the data and insights around this. So I'm going to just quickly I'm just going to use certain things. Like, there are 3 principles. Number 1, every research that we have done, we have seen that companies really go through these 3 stages: problem, product, platform. No matter what the speed it is, they really go through this. So I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to introduce you to the go-to-market operating system. Once you understand the operating system and the 8 questions that the research showed, you will be able to do your 2026 planning. And I'm going to, if the time permits, I'm going to show you a few examples of both B2B and B2C, which should help you think through the usage economy and how that really works. So first of all, our research really started with let's look at the top 100 companies. And I'm so glad Adam talked about this, so I don't need to go deeper into it, is we had to well, how do you know which companies are good? Is OpenAI a great company who loses money, and would you want to build a business around that? I don't know. Is a startup company that does not raise money, is that a good thing? I don't know. So how do you know it's a good company? So our research really got into the depth of it, and Adam really hit the point, nail on the head, which is NRR. And so we looked at companies that have 100% or more NRR across public, private, PLG, usage, subscription, across the board. And we said, which companies have 100% or more NRR, and tried to see what it is. And I know Ray has a lot of research that he will talk about later on today as well. And when you look at it, what was interesting is we couldn't find a lot of publicly traded companies over 100% or 120% especially. You know why? Because they're actually going private and saying, we don't want to do this. We don't want to tell all these people about all of it. We don't have this much scrutiny. They actually went private. So there are not that many publicly traded companies based on our research on it. They actually started to move more and more private, and more PLG companies are starting to pull into that. But that's our plumb line. That's how we said, well, who are the best companies and what do they do that you and I can do? So that's the thesis around it. And you could see some of these companies in it, right? How many of you, shout out the name of a company that you're using right now or have seen or part of? Go for it. Lydia? All right, you use Gong. Anybody else uses any of the companies over here? Snowflake? Yeah, I'm going to use an example of that. These are all companies who are doing this, right? So these are the kind of 35 companies I wanted to use because I think these are companies that we all probably know. So there are some of them that we have looked at it. And what's interesting is they all have gone through these 3 stages: problem, product, platform. What's interesting is any company that hasn't transitioned from product to platform, our research shows that 80% of them eventually just die. And the definition of going from product to platform is you trying to sell more than one product or to more than one segment or more than one persona the same type of product, which is why, like, Lydia, you mentioned Gong, like that's an example of that. Like every company has to mature themselves to become a platform company at some point or other. If not, they're just going to die. That's what the research shows. And so the problem product platform is a standard way of how you grow as a company. Now, when I started to look at it, and the QR code is there because there's so much research, there's no way I can share it in 30 minutes, so the QR code will let you download all the slides and give you all the info if you wanted to. But here's what we say. We looked at my last company, Terminus, that we built over 100 million. We started at $250 a month. Like it didn't even make sense, right? And how we grew, and you look at Joe Rogan podcast, if you look at it, you look at Morning Brew or Skim, if you look any of the newsletters, how they went. You look at McDonald's, that's like a place that I used to go all the time. Now I'm trying to be fit, so I'm not as much. But when they did the research, they found out that, look, they started and they gave everything in 1940s, from barbecue to orange juice. And then they found out in a couple of years that, whoa, everybody is like Sangram. They eat hamburgers, fries, and soda. So they changed their whole pricing structure, and they actually became a really good. So they actually went and did a product market fit, an analysis of what works and what the usage really looks like for it. You can look at Salesforce, you can look at HubSpot. Ultimately, the point is growth happens in stages. And if you can think through that as part of your business, your go-to-market, how your customers are going through, every single company, doesn't really matter if it's B2B or B2C. So you can apply this logic to your own organization of what stage are you in? Just like if you are not aligned on the go-to-market definition, if as an executive team, if you're not aligned on if you're in a problem market fit or a product market fit or a platform market fit, you're gonna have all kinds of issues. You're gonna have all kinds of issues. And go-to-market is ultimately hard. Which is why I asked the question, how many of you are in marketing or sales or go-to-market? Every one of you, if you're sitting in this room, you are in go-to-market. You like it or not, you want it or not, you want a new fancy title, that's totally fine, it's up to you. But ultimately, go-to-market is the business. It's no longer the way marketing does some of that and sales. No, you actually are part of go-to-market, and you need to know what the NRR is. Now, how many of you know, raise of hand, let me be honest, how many of you know what the NRR of your company is? Like probably 5 people. So the number 2 takeaway, remember the first one was like define go-to-market is. Number 2 takeaway for you today is go and figure out what your company's NRR is. I have a story of a CMO who about 3 months ago, I've shared this before, where she put on LinkedIn that she just hit everything off the park. She generated $50 million pipeline or some crazy number. And 2 weeks later, she was let go. And I asked her, I called her up and said, hey, what happened? And she said, well, I did not know that it was for the wrong ICP and it was for the wrong pipeline and it wasn't connected to the right customer cohort that actually was retaining. So her NRR was dipping dramatically, and she was a CMO of a very well-known company. So I ask you that each one of you need to figure out what does NRR really mean for your company. If you don't know what it is, it's going to pull you back. It's going to stop you, and you'll be surprised what happens later. And because the state of go-to-market is changing so much, and there's all these data and all these insights, our research shows the one thing in 2026, if you want to get ahead, is not AI. While AI might be part of the solution, it's not just AI for sure. It's not another product launch, although that might help your business move forward. It's not another go-to-market motion, although that may be, again, part of the solution. It's actually internal clarity on go-to-market. If you as an executive team can say, this is where you are, and that's why I'm going to give you that operating system as an example of how do you find out you're clear or not. not just because you're enjoying conversation, but actually do you have answers to some of the most important questions that those 100 companies that actually are the best companies in the world with 120% NRR are very good at answering. They may have their own issues, but they're really good at answering those questions. So I submit to you this, and this is the launching pad for the rest of the few minutes we have. Your competition is most likely you. Your knowledge, your understanding of what go-to-market is what's stopping you from actually doing the best work of your life. Adam talked about AI fatigue. That's real. How many of you are doing less work because AI is there? No one. Like, we are all doing more work while we have AI supposedly trying to do everything for us. So I'll give you a quick quote, and then I'll show you the operating system. This is one of my favorite quotes. I talk about it with my kids. I talk about it with my company, in our research, with our customers all the time, which is simply this. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That's James Clear in Atomic Habits. It's one of the favorite books. I highly recommend you reading it because it's talking about the fact that everybody got goals. You have the same goal like the person sitting next to you. You want to be healthier, happier, personally? Sure. You want to have a higher revenue target for 2026 and meet it? Sure. Everybody has the same exact goal. So why is it that only a few of us over here are going to actually hit those goals and others are not? And may I submit to you, the reason between you and the person sitting next to you is that one of you is going to actually put a system in place that's going to help you get there. The question is, who is who? So you can look at each other and say, that's me, but you gotta really work at it. So here is the go-to-market operating system. Here is what our research of working through thousands of companies have brought us to. And it's extremely simple. It's literally 8 pillars, and it has 8 questions. If you took the time to answer these questions as clearly as you possibly can as an executive team, I promise you your 2026 planning is going to be a lot more clear. And I'll use one of these 8 questions as an example. The first question, which is the most common questions we run in workshops or certified partners, frameworks, this is what stops most companies from making an actual move, is where can you grow the most? Now, think about the qualifier there, the most. It doesn't say, the question is not. These questions are very thoughtfully curated. This has gone to thousands and thousands of companies and CEOs and workshops conversation. They're not just randomly ChatGPT picked up. Like, these are questions that have actually worked in boardrooms. And you probably are asking some of these questions, maybe different words, but the way you ask and frame a question is very important. So think about the question. The question is, where can you grow the most? It doesn't say, where can you grow? Although that could be a really smart question to ask, but the problem with where can you grow is it could be anywhere. You can start a new business, you can launch a new product, you can have a new feature, you can keep talking through that because it's endless. But when you ask the question, where can you grow the most, the immediate thing that should happen as an executive team is, oh, do we have enough gross margin on it? Is there enough market for it? Is it going to actually solve a customer problem? You're going to have business conversations. That does not happen in most organizations, which is why that CMO I talked about a few minutes ago with the $50 million, the problem is they never asked this first question, where can you grow the most? They said, hey, we need to grow, go create pipeline. How many of you get that as an executive, right? Like, go create pipeline, go close more deals. But if your NRR is stuck, none of those things are actually going to help you. So I love where Adam was talking through and getting into this part is because this is the heart of it. And all of these questions, as you can see, these are not marketing, sales, customer success questions. These are executive questions, go-to-market questions. This is not about putting marketing against sales or product against customer success. It's none of it. You all are in go-to-market. You all are actually business leaders who happen to be really good at something, one of the areas in go-to-market. But you actually are business leaders. And that's the part that you want to have. So I'm going to go through real fast a few examples, both B2B and B2C. Across the board, and we've worked with every single company in some way, shape, or form, or a subsidiary of that company over the last few years. One is Notion. If you have used, how many of you use Notion or have used Notion, right? Remember, Notion was like just a pretty app. It didn't really do anything. It was it was in the problem stage. It almost died twice if you go back and look at the history of it. And they were like, well, what are we trying to do? And their go-to-market motion wasn't hiring a bunch of salespeople. It wasn't. They said, we're going to create a wait list and a community-driven buzz. And that's how we're going to create people. And we're going to make it so easy to use. That's going to be the focus. So off the go-to-market OS questions, you know what question they debated religiously inside every single day as much as possible at the executive level was this: what's our point of view? What is it that's going to bring people to us so specifically that they're going to be like, whoa, this is the product I want to use. I want to give it a try because I like this for some reason. You think about HubSpot. I've spoken at HubSpot for almost 10 years now consecutively, and they were the first investors in my last company, so I know their story really, really well. And they, again, were one of those companies that were almost dying. They actually still do the inbound conference. They don't even have a funnel. It's a circle. But they still have the inbound conference. And guess what? When you think about it, when they said that we are going to use a category-defining thing, at that time, nobody was talking about this as a category. They said, we are going to focus on categories. So that's the question. What is our differentiated point of view? And their answer was, we'll create a new category around it. You look at Snowflake. I'll never forget this. The rep from Snowflake actually called our office when I was at Terminus. We were running that company. He called our CTO and said, hey, I want to give you Snowflake. And my CTO was like, hey, no, we already have AWS. Why am I don't need to buy anything. I don't have, He's like, no, I'm not selling you anything. I just want you to use Snowflake. And my CTO kept saying to him, no, I don't want to go through procurement process. And you know what he said? No procurement. Just deploy your data on this and see if we are better. And my CTO came to me and said, he's not even asking for money, no contract, no nothing. And so the salesperson changed the game. This is 8 years ago. And he said, no, just use it. And if it works better, then we can talk about contracts. So he changed the way they went to go to market completely, where they were one of the early ones where they did the usage-based and they added pricing and then partners and marketplace. That's a way to grow. And this is where Jeffrey Moore, if you read Crossing the Chasm, he's a big fan of the go-to-market operating system. He gave tremendous reviews on this. Every great company has an operating system. Your company actually does. You may just not have codified it. And if you could use these 8 questions to pull that together, it can drive tremendous consensus when it comes to 2026 planning. Here's some examples for B2C. Like, we all know these companies. I use these companies just because it's easier to talk through, and we all know what they do and whatnot. Well, clearly, nobody's driving Tesla because you just get benefits of Tesla. A lot of people drive it because, well, you know what? It's a prestige thing. That's how they got into the market. It was a whole marketing play. You think about Apple. I don't remember the last time they created a better phone. It's the same phone, just a better pixel. I still use iPhone because they had a better ecosystem, and we still use it, and a lot of people are still using it. And even Sam talked about earlier Amazon Prime. 2 days ago, we were watching a movie, and it popped up, hey, do you want to connect to Alexa so you can, from the ad, I can buy stuff? So it's all ecosystem flywheel. These stories are stories that are happening in B2B just like they're happening in B2C in real time, maybe even faster than we ever thought, because we always thought there was a big difference, but it's really not. But you have to ask the key go-to-market operating system question to try to answer it. So I'll finish up with a few big research outlines for you. These are the big takeaways as you think about 2026 planning. Number 1, below NRR of 100%, you are a business that is waiting to die. It is true, and it would be unfortunate when that happens. So your job is to own the go-to-market role, find out what it is, no matter where, then 60, 70, it doesn't really matter, and say, how can I contribute to this NRR number? So it can be, because otherwise the writing is on the wall. Even if, and 120% is rare air, but it's the direction you want to go. Number 2, this is the go-to-market manifesto. This is what we have every organization go through when we do workshops, which is the CEO has to own go-to-market. They cannot be sitting somewhere else saying, hey, you guys figure this part out. Can't do that. It's the business. You got to trust in NRR. Business transformation happens in teams. It doesn't happen. How many of you, if you're in marketing, would like to change sales compensation? Or salespeople would like to give marketing some numbers? Happens all the time, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you have to see the business transformation happens in teams, and you got to figure out your own operating system and maybe use the GTMOS as an example of it and something to start off with, but those questions are very much research-based. A couple of other things. The way people are buying has shifted. We all are seeing rise of services as a software, which is why the usage economy makes a lot of sense. We're also seeing the way people are selling right now is very much different. SDR was a necessary bug in the whole go-to-market function, and we are seeing that's changing. At the same time, even the way people are building products are changing. I was talking to someone earlier today where they're saying we don't even have a user interface. It just goes through and works through all of it. At the same time, here's the big shift that's happening in the marketplace. The future of work is going to be workflow. You're not going to have a UI to show it, which is why the future of platform is almost going to be invisible. That's what our research shows. In the next 3 years, you will literally not, you will be joking about, did you know we had to put username and password? It will almost seem like you're talking 100 years ago what happened. But in the next 2 years, we see the interface is just going to go away. You would just work through and talk through. Every company would have their own LLMs to work through. And the future of business, and this is very important, the future of business is you got to have your own operating system, and your system will be based on the services part of it, which is all these workflows we just talked about. There can be many fractional go-to-market leaders in it. We have some of the people. I think I see Rick over there, Lydia and Tim. They're GTMO certified partners who actually implement this thing in many different companies and AI. Like, it's just going to be part of how companies work. And when you think about the old go-to-market and new go-to-market, you have to start looking at it as an operating system. So, as I finish, we have done this for so many companies. You can just do it on your own as an organization. You can use the OS partners to do it, or us. I highly recommend each one of you, as you go be part of 2026 planning, use these 8 questions to guide every single conversation. The best companies in the world, they're not talking about AI. They're talking about how our customers can answer these 8 questions and how your value is driven. They're not talking about marketing pipeline and sales pipeline. They're trying to figure out where can you grow the most. They're not talking about, is our product better or should we launch a new product? They're talking about the question around what is the ROI in the customer's mind. So if you can use these 8 questions, your 2026 planning is going to be that much more better. So thank you so much, and I'll be here all day.